Hello, welcome back here to CAYDEN'S Weather Center, brand new series that I am starting. Every night there will be an upload here at 8 p.m. Eastern Time talking about tomorrow's weather. So today we're going to be talking about September 29th, 2024's weather right now. But if we take a look at what we're seeing kind of this evening, we can clearly see still some heavy rain continuing on over here, kind of in the central United States, the Ohio Valley area. You can see a little bit of that spin. That is Helene that is continuing to dump heavy amounts of rainfall as Helene has really just devastated plenty of states, obviously, from Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee. Way too much rain and way too much storm surge from this tropical system, and we're definitely going to have to pay attention to it next week. We're going to have to pay attention to the tropics because Florida could be in possibly another path of another tropical system. We're hoping not, but we're going to have to pay attention to it very closely, and we'll go over that here in this video as well. But there's that, Helene right now dumping heavy amounts of rain. Currently in Ohio still. Cincinnati's getting a lot of that. Louisville, same with Western Kentucky. That's kind of where her center of low pressure is sitting right there, as the storm did make landfall just a couple of days ago and then pushed up over here off to the northeast and dumped heavy amounts of rain in North Carolina. And I've seen videos of Asheville and all of that. Houses are underwater, so my prayers do go out to anyone that lives in North Carolina, Florida, and really just anyone that got impacted by Helene. So I hope you guys for the best recovery from this storm. But, obviously we need to keep our eyes still on the tropics as we are still in hurricane season, especially when we're heading into October with a different development region. But for right now, we're going to pay attention, obviously, to the severe weather threat for tomorrow. Not a big severe weather threat at all. We're really not anticipating a lot. Maybe a little bit of thunderstorms could happen over here in parts of Utah. That's something that we could be paying attention to. Same with eastern Nevada here. The southeast, Florida could be getting some scattered thunderstorms, a sea breeze thunderstorms starting back up tomorrow, and then a little bit of that rain continuing on in eastern part of North Carolina, going through Virginia, and then western Virginia, and then a little bit of Ohio here. So that could be bringing in some rain as well. No tornado threat, wind threat, or hail threat, so that's at least good news there. Taking a look at the future radar for tomorrow, as you can clearly, or for the next couple of days here, this is the HRR model. The time is right up here, so that's, we're going to keep an eye out obviously on the time, because when are we going to expect this? But if you take a look, a little bit of thunderstorms right now in the state of Florida. There's Helene continuing on over there in the Ohio Valley. Very clear on the western side of the United States, so that's good news for you guys. And we're going to continue seeing that probably here for the next couple of days. Obviously, you can still see some scattered thunderstorms going on here in the Florida coast, and then Helene will stick around for just a little bit longer here, and then we'll constantly push off to the east, and then we'll see a little bit less of Helene continuing, but some heavy rain could be impacting Virginia and West Virginia there, and that could bring some little bit of flash flooding as well. Florida definitely getting a little bit of those scattered thunderstorms here, but you can clearly see over here of the western United States and the central United States, very clear here for the next couple of days. We're going to be not really anticipating much for you guys. Maybe a couple rain showers here on the western part of Washington, but other than that, really it is the quietest it has been. This is one of the quietest moments out of the whole year here that has been quiet for the United States here. So something to pay attention to. Obviously, when we go in the next couple of weeks, could we be seeing a little bit of different scenarios here? When will that rain start to pick up? When will the storms come back? That's a big question, but we'll give you the latest information here. But as of right now, good news, staying very, very dry, just really sunny weather too. So taking a look here at the temperatures now. So a little bit more of a different scenario here for the temperatures. So going from rain over here to temperatures, we can clearly see some temperatures have definitely come down due to Tropical Storm Helene, or post-tropical cyclone Helene right now. Still some hot temperatures going on over here in the west coast of the United States, in Arizona reaching up to 114 in some areas, 113 in Southern California here. And then parts of the central United States still going up into the lower 90s, and then over here into the mid 90s in Texas. And then Florida now has cooled down a little bit into the mid 80s to the upper 80s. But really the biggest area with the coolest temperatures right now is kind of the northeast, going down over here where Helene is located. So that did bring a little bit of cooler weather. But what are we going to expect here for the next couple of days? Obviously, if we go into, 5 days from now, we're going to start to see some of that heat start to pick up here in the central states. We're going to see heat pick up also in the western coast of the United States that's really just been pretty consistent, obviously there. Very nice temperatures over here in the northeast here in Maine. Going into New York here, 57, 55 degrees there for you guys. We're starting to get into that cooler weather, the fall weather here, as it is now fall as of September 22nd here. 6 days here, 6 days from now, Montana. You guys can be getting some 50, 60 temperatures there. Obviously, the central United States starting to pick up its temperature. Same with kind of Florida now. By the 6 days, could be bringing it back up into the upper 80s. Bringing it back into 11 days from now, we can see we're seeing these cold fronts going to be starting to come down as we're heading into October. It's that time of year where we start to see some of these cold fronts. Still, Texas still getting some very, very hot temperatures there, but you can clearly see majority of the United States here on, in the next 10 days, 11 days is going to be in the mid 70s at least, and that will be very, very, gifting, because we're really going to be anticipating that. We're really excited for have these temperatures go down, especially if you live in some of these states that are still going to be constantly dealing with some of this. But heading into 15 days now, this could change. This still could change here, but we're going to pay attention to this, obviously, and, we could be seeing hotter temperatures in the next 15 days for certain areas than what this map says. So obviously some changes still could happen here, but a little bit of, cooler temperatures over here in Colorado, going into Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. Really for the Midwest, we could be seeing some very cold and nice temperatures over here in the next 15 days. The Southeast will cool down a little bit, but really Texas still kind of cooling down at least a little bit, but not a significant amount. Same thing with Arizona, still could be up in that upper 90s, lower 100s, and we'll have to pay attention to that as we go on throughout the next couple of weeks as well. So right now here, taking a look at the tropic side right now, what are we paying attention to? Well, we do have Hurricane Isaac that is continuing in the northern part of the Atlantic. Hurricane Isaac obviously is a hurricane, did reach up to almost, did get close to that major hurricane strength, but it just chose not to. But here's that forecast cone over here, obviously not going to impact anyone as it will just stay out to sea. Will be anticipated to become a tropical storm over here in the next, 2 days, probably 6 a.m. on Monday. We could be anticipating a tropical storm here in the northern Atlantic, and then we'll race off over here to the north, and really will start to die down, especially as it heads into that cooler temperatures over here. Did not, anticipate to get even over 90 miles an hour, but now it is over 100 miles an hour and is moving to the northeast at 18, and that speed will pick up over here in the next couple of days. Taking a look at Helene, we can clearly see a lot of the moisture is up to the north here and off to the east a little bit from Helene, and you can clearly see that the National Hurricane Center really isn't issuing advisories anymore. This is now the National Weather Service. Excessive outlook for rain from Helene over here for the next day. We could still be seeing some pretty heavy rainfall in parts of western North Carolina, going into eastern Tennessee, going through majority of Kentucky here, West Virginia, Ohio, and then parts of Indiana. This does include several cities: Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana. So a little bit of areas, and then a little bit of possible flooding could be going on over here in the Tampa Bay area as well for Florida. So something to pay attention to. Then this is where we have a little bit of a concern here. We're going to talk about this here for a little bit. We have a possibility for a tropical system to form over here in the western Atlantic here in the next couple of days. This could be our area that we want to pay attention to, and it is marked by the National Hurricane Center with a medium chance of formation here. Eventually, we're going to see something form over here, and then we'll eventually possibly pull up into the Gulf of Mexico. The question is, who could be impacted with this? We have some models bringing it into Florida. We have some models actually bringing it into Louisiana. We're going to go over these models with you, but obviously, this is the last thing you want to see at this time. So there is this by the National Hurricane Center. We can clearly see 50% chance over here in the next 7 days, and we're going to anticipate this probably to go up tonight here around the 8 p.m. advisory. As of the recording of this video, it is a 50% chance here of the 2 p.m. advisory, but we're anticipating it to obviously go up as a lot of model development is anticipated with this. So it's going to continue to move off over here to the northwest here. Once it starts to form, when we have an X kind of pull up here, that will be our area for development. And this whole area, orange area, is the best area for development. Now, I want to set this clear. This is not a forecast cone. This is a system that obviously we're going to pay attention to, but this is not a forecast cone. with this storm. Yes, it gives us an area of where the development could happen. Obviously, no matter what, the Yucatan could be getting heavy amounts of rainfall, and parts of Central America could be getting some heavy rainfall as well. But this is not a forecast cone, so we could still be seeing, obviously, some type of differences here in the formation. Taking a look here at the Euro probabilities here for the next couple of days, heading into the 72 hours out, we obviously see something here according to the European model. 48 to 96, 72 to 120, there it is. So we could possibly be seeing something over here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and then high chances are, starting to go up over here, and we're anticipating these chances to continue to grow for a probability of a tropical depression in this area right here over the next couple of days. Then you kind of can see the European model with the probabilities start to bring it up here and then pull it up into possibly the west coast of Florida, and you can see that here brings in the majority of that formation here, possibly in the eastern Gulf heading into Florida. And obviously Florida does not need anything else right now, so this would be obviously some bad news. And it definitely does seem like, according to the Euro probability, we could be seeing something right here just east of the Lesser Antilles, possibly here 2 weeks from now. But this is still subject to change. We're very far out still, but this has been the pretty consistent area here for the European model, so we're going to have to keep an eye out, obviously, on that. Now, going to the European ensembles here, what are we anticipating? Obviously, this is when we could see a little bit of a low pressure system forming here. Right here could go over the Yucatan as a 1,009 millibar, maybe even a tropical storm, tropical depression, but that is nothing that we're going to pay attention to there. That could bring heavy amounts of rainfall already to the Yucatan. Then we're seeing a little bit of, this is our storm that we're going to pay attention to once it gets right over here, those low pressures. Then once it starts to get into the Gulf of Mexico here, once it starts getting into the Gulf of Mexico, we can see some of these models do bring it up over here into Florida. Now, the one thing I will say is we do have some models that do bring it over here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and then some of these models bring it not even into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, kind of bring it up and then into Florida. So I'm not just saying that Florida is guaranteed to get hit, because obviously models are subject to change over the next couple of days, because that's what models do, but I would say everyone kind of needs to be on the lookout for this system until we get a little bit more of an idea from these models on what we could be anticipating. The GFS does bring it over here into the northern Gulf. Euro has been pretty consistent over here in the eastern Gulf. Same with the Canadian model. So something to pay attention to as we go on. You take a look here at the GFS ensembles. Let me back out a little bit here. Still, the GFS ensembles bringing maybe a low pressure over here over the Yucatan that could bring heavy amounts of rainfall, but this is our system right here. Now, the GFS does bring it a little bit stronger than the European model, as you can already see starting to form down there according to the GFS. So bringing it up here to the north, majority of the models, we have still a split. Majority of the models do keep it over the Yucatan. Some of those other models bring it over here and just missing the Yucatan, but then we kind of see it split up a little bit here. Now, this is our big area right here that we need to pay attention to according to the GFS. This would be October 5th, so next weekend, but we can clearly see some models bring it up over here, and then some models bring it over here, missing the Yucatan. Now, the question is, if it goes over here over the western part of Yucatan, or the eastern goes through the Yucatan at least, could it get pulled up very easily and kind of, because obviously we're going to expect a turn to happen in this region. The more west it goes, the GFS is saying, the more it could bring it into possibly Louisiana, and then the more east it goes, the possibility it will go into Florida. So something to pay attention to. We can clearly see we do have several GFS ensembles still bringing, some into parts of the New Orleans, Louisiana region, but still we do have some going into the Florida Bend. Are we expecting a hurricane out of this? Some models lean towards it. We're obviously hoping nothing more than anything right now for Florida, because we're still trying to recover from Helene here, but something to still pay attention to, as hurricane season is not over. So this is going to be something to pay attention to. The 18Z model run is coming out right now for the GFS model, and we can clearly see right now Helene is continuing. There's a high pressure over here that's kind of blocking stuff, so we're going to constantly see this. The GFS model, there it is. Once again, your time is over here, October 2nd. Possible hurricane, or maybe a slight hurricane, maybe a higher tropical storm could be forming here, and then possibly heading up right over here or over here. Big question for the GFS. kind of seeing it continue to pull off that westward motion here, 986, 979 millibars, and now brings it into the Florida Panhandle. And I would say over the past, operational runs here from the GFS, that has been pretty consistent from the GFS, and it seems like that's what the GFS is really wanting to hang on to. But right now, I would say the GFS is kind of more of the outlier here. But no matter what, we're expecting possibly a storm to turn. But the question is where does it go after that? So, if it forms a little bit more off to the west here and gets into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, we could be seeing parts of the northern Gulf more impacted. So big question still on the table. Taking a look at the 12Z European model, we can clearly see a little bit late on the development according to the European than the GFS, as the European does bring it, very, very late. October 5th, we could be seeing that first low pressure system there as 1,005 millibars, keeping it a little bit weak, and then starts to strengthen a little bit here. But then the European does bring it just into the Tampa Bay area, and that is something to pay attention to. That could bring some heavy amounts of rainfall. The good news isn't a major hurricane or anything like that, so we'll bring it up and then kind of race it off over here to hug the East Coast, so that could bring more rainfall into the Carolinas. So obviously no one's wanting this tropical system right now after what just happened with Helene. This is the Euro AI bringing a little bit there. There's our system right there. October 5th, kind of the same thing as the European model, bringing just a little bit north of the Tampa Bay, than the regular Euro, bringing just a little to the south here, and then still once again we'll race off and bring it over here, hugging the east coast of the United States, bringing heavy rainfall to them. And then, the Euro AI bringing another tropical system, but staying out in the Atlantic. So Canadian models kind of agreeing with the European model here. That's something we could pay attention to as well. Here, this is October 4th, so maybe a little bit quicker here. But possible strong tropical storm, possible small hurricane could be forming here in the Gulf of Mexico, according to the Canadian. Then brings it into the Florida Bend. But if you can clearly see, does not move. I would say the CMC brings it in, not as fast as moving as what Helene was doing, but still heavy amounts of rainfall could happen here according to the Canadian model. So that's something to pay attention to. As we're seeing the European model and the CMC model really agreeing with each other right now, and the GFS seems like to be more of the outlier right now. Obviously, I'm not hoping for this, I'm not wishing for this, but it's something to pay attention to as we are heading still into hurricane season here, and especially as we head into October. This is where majority of our storms will be forming and then get pulled up to the north. So something to still pay attention to. The icon for the 18C does bring a tropical storm here, or a tropical, pretty weak tropical storm here into the northern Gulf, possibly into the Mississippi and Alabama coast here. We could be seeing that according to the icon, and then we could clearly see some of that heavy rainfall. If we head to the 12Z for the icon here, wasn't pulling up too much, but actually, well, I guess it was, but you can clearly see there it is right there on October 4th, and then kind of races off over here according to the icon, brings that low pressure kind of sitting in there. But that's a cold front that will be coming down as well, and then you kind of can see according to the icon a high pressure will form right behind that. So something to still pay attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of days. We're going to see these models possibly change here. Obviously, we don't want to see any more impacts here to the United States from a tropical system, but it's always needing to be alert here. So thank you so much for watching here for the first ever time for doing every night uploads here on what we could be expecting here for the next couple days and what we could be anticipating here. We're going to do this every night. It will be uploaded at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. My prayers and thoughts do go out to everyone that was impacted from Helene, that lost a house or lost a possible loved one from Helene. Make sure that you are taking some time to recover, and just I hope the speedy recovery for everyone from this tropical system here, especially if you live in North Carolina, the Florida Bend, Tennessee, really these places that are devastating with storm surge and that flooding that is going on in the eastern United States. Obviously, this isn't the best circumstances to be having a possibility for a tropical system here in the next couple of days, or next week, but it's something to pay attention to. I will keep you updated. Make sure to follow my X page down in the description down below for the most frequent updates here on the tropics and the severe weather update. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and bye-bye.